Welcome everyone. We are back with a session of Startup 101. Today with us we have Mr. Krishna Kumar Devarli. He is the founder and director of Empower Solutions, and he is a he is a seasoned technology professional having 30 years of experience in the industry, and he is also a mentor, advisor, and investor to startups, mentoring early stage startup to build a scalable and sustainable business model. Today, he'll be taking a session with us on leveraging the uniqueness in the challenging market. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Uday, for the nice introduction. And also, I would like to thank the IIT Kanpur management and especially the ECEL committee members for this great opportunity to interact with the aspiring student entrepreneurs from IIT and the colleges associated with IIT. So today, I'm going to talk about how we should leverage the uniqueness in our idea or in our startup in order to address the challenging market. Today, I'm going to cover how the COVID-19 events unfolded, the effects of COVID-19 and how the response was done. Then the key of the session is I will take you through how to survive and succeed in this challenging time, mainly how to create the differentiator. Then I will share case studies of 3 of my portfolio startups which actually pivoted and really done well during this pandemic time. What an apt quote, man needs difficulties in life because they are necessary to enjoy the success. Why I quoted Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam is because he has graced this IIT Kanpur event few years back. And I really feel honored to share the same, I would say, same podium. The podium is virtual today, but I'm really honored to share the same podium that once was shared by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. And the difficulties he is talking about is not anything but the pandemic, COVID-19. If you look at the pandemic, how it started from Wuhan, China, way back in December, it was kept undercover till suddenly the world, got hit by this unknown enemy called COVID-19 or Corona. The countries did not know what to do, how to respond. So-called developed countries like US, Italy were the first affected countries and they didn't know how to respond to this particular Corona. Italy, even the Prime Minister went on record saying that they have lost the control on how to protect their citizens from Corona. If you look at India, somewhere in March, it came to India in March, somewhere in March, 22nd of March to be precise. Our Prime Minister Modi ji has said that we'll stay home for a whole day. And that was the start of the lockdown, in fact, which was unprecedented. On 24th, since 24th of March, he has announced the lockdown. It was first for the 15 days and everybody thought that it's a question of 15 days and it will be over, everything will be normal. Because nobody, I always say that nobody except the Queen of England may have gone through similar situation in her lifetime, in their lifetime rather. So India responded quite maturely, I would say, looking back at this particular 4 months or 4.5 months that have gone by. 24th onwards, we announced complete lockdown, and the effect was on all the three, right? The government, the industry, and the labor, and the individuals. If you look at government, India announced the lockdown, and then the government has responded quite quickly to upgrade the infrastructure that was required to take care of the corona patients. Nobody was knowing how this corona will behave, but then the hospitals were built up, additional facilities were created. Even, if you look at the entrepreneurship kind of idea that came, was the government has come out and used the train compartments to make it into a COVID center. Government, along with the local authorities, DMCs, and the police, were there along with the health workers to fight the corona. The entire industry came to standstill except the essential goods. The flow of essential goods and pharmacies or the medicines were kept open. Initially, there was a problem with labor, and you know what happened to the labor problem. The labor has shifted from cities to rural areas back there. Individuals didn't know what to do. They were locked at home. A person like me who is used to traveling globally, I have not gone out of my home, almost 1 kilometer around my home for last 4.5 to 5 months. Everything has come to standstill. Businesses have gone to remote kind of operations. Work from home became the norm. Individuals started learning new things. Webinars became the new thing to deliver the education, deliver the skills. To tell you frankly, on my side, I have also learned cooking during this time. So I used to only do 2-minute noodles earlier, but then pandemic makes you learn a lot of things because there was nothing to do but to learn new things, equip yourself with new skills so that you take on the challenges head on. If you look at the current situation, everything has gone online, right? So many of the businesses, if you look at businesses have suffered. If you look at the startup scenario, the statistics says that already 12% of the startups have closed down. The balance 60% of the startups are trying to survive. They are trying to see how they can become relevant. They are trying to go back to the boardroom, trying to rework their strategies, trying to work on the new channels, new products, new customers, so that they can still survive post-COVID. Many of the business models have become irrelevant today. I will now share with you the case studies of 3 of my portfolio startups who have really pivoted during these 4 months of time. How apt is this quote? Some men see things as they are and wonder why. and I dream things that never were and say, why not? That's a quote from George Bernard Shaw. If you look at any entrepreneurial journey, it starts with this thought in the mind. When the human beings are presented with challenges or problems, you will agree that 90% of the people will start blaming the others for the conditions that they are into. The 10% of the people will look at the challenges and they will say, hey, I need to look at the challenges in different perspective. I will come out with some kind of a solution and I will try to help the people who are in trouble. And that's where the new idea is born. What we now normally think about is to survive and sustain. And succeed in the challenging market, what is required is the new idea. Most of the portfolio companies that I have, I being associated with incubators, which are tech incubators, mostly the startups are working on patents. They are working on unique ideas. It's all about creating the differentiation. And how do you create the differentiation? You create differentiation by looking at the problem from a different perspective. You then brainstorm and come out with various ideas as to how to tackle that particular problem. You look at any problem that is faced by the society around you. You look at any problem that is faced by the business around you, right? So the idea is born. To be successful, you need to have a unique idea. And once you have the unique idea, you have to protect that particular idea because it becomes your intellectual property. And here comes the relevance of patents. I will share few of the startups that I am dealing with. In fact, one of the startups from IIT Bombay, Sign, which I started mentoring in 2017-18. He has about 17 patents in various domains. He is a geek kind of a person. 2 of the patents have been already monetized, and we are working on the others. One of the patents which he has worked is in the sports arena, which he has licensed it to a company called Yonex. So he is getting royalty for that. Then recently he has come out with a foldable toilet for under the Clean India scheme of India. So just pre-COVID, he was also invited by none other than our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi ji, and he was felicitated for that particular idea of his. So when you talk about any problem or anything, you need to have unique idea and patent. And if you have patent, you can survive any problem because you are unique. You can have your own target, you can have your own market, and you always get a window of at least 1 year to be the pioneer or you getting the first mover's advantage. So it's all about creating unique value proposition or unique selling proposition, as you call. Unique value proposition, when you look at the product side of it, you should create a value for the customer. When I say value, there are three things when you look at any product. There is something called as the feature of the product. There is something called as the benefit, there is something called as the advantage that that particular product derives. And then the third thing is the benefit that particular product brings to the consumer. And consumer only gets convinced when he has benefits coming in from that particular patent or from that idea. For a salesperson, it becomes a unique selling proposition because he can convince the customer against the competition that he has, because there are so many solutions that you have when it comes to any particular domain. A particular problem can be solved in many ways, and there are many companies giving solution for a particular problem. So when you talk about your own product, you should look at not only the direct competition but also the indirect competition. To give you an example, if you look at the LED lights, right? So LED is a technology, right? The feature is it gives, you know, it saves your electricity, and the benefit that it derives to the customer is the end of the day, he pays less money. So there is a saving coming in for using that LED light. So every product has to be looked into these three perspective. One is what are the features of the product, what are the advantages that each feature gives to the customer, and ultimately the benefit derived out of that particular feature for the customer. So unless you come out with your unique value proposition, you are not in a position to sell your product successfully. If you have to have a scalable, stable business model, you have to really come out with such product, and you have to keep on evolving, because the competitors will catch up with you. They will come out with their own solutions to compete with you, and they can take away your market share. If you look at, I've been from the telecom industry. I normally like to give a classic example of how telecom evolved. If you look at Motorola, in fact, it was my second employer. I was with Motorola Arya Communication for 7 years. I was a member of core team which launched wireless technologies in India. Starting from 1994 to 2001, I was with them. And I was the core member of the team which launched rather two-way walkie-talkies, paging systems, cellular phones that we are using today, trunking radio system, and also the high-tech SCADA system. So I was a part of that team. And if you look at Motorola, when the telecom evolution happened in India and the cellular phones came, the Nokia understood what is required by the customer. They came out with sleek models, and they also came out with their models not only for men, they came out with models for women with a lot of color combinations. So Motorola did not understand this business. There, we salespeople, we used to sell these mobile phones, even from manufactured by Motorola as well as manufactured by Nokia. We used to call that they were very, 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 heavy, because they thought that a modification to their two-way walkie-talkie system, which is used in industrial tough conditions, the same model they came out for a consumer. That's where they went wrong, because that heavy product nobody could carry. And here Nokia came out with sleeker model, which could be kept in the palm. So naturally Nokia became the market leader, and Motorola has to really quit the market. They came later on after say 10 years or so with their refined strategy. Then what happened to the Nokia? The history again repeated. You need to keep on reinventing yourself. You need to keep on understanding the pulse of the people, pulse of the customers, so as to modify your product. If not, somebody else will come out with a better technology and take away the entire market from you. And that's what happened to Nokia. When Samsung came out with their Android technology, and then touch phones happened, and Nokia did not know what to do. They still believed in their old mobile phones, which were having, those buttons. They did not know how to compete, and suddenly Samsung became the market leader with almost 60 to 65% of market share. And today, if you see, many of the Chinese brands have taken over the market. Even Samsung is finding it tough today because of these Chinese brands, and the market has become very dynamic. So this is a very apt example, as over a period of almost 25 years, how the telecom market has changed. The mobile telephony has changed from Motorola to Nokia to Samsung, and not now to OnePlus or Apple, or you have many Vivo. So many options are available to the customer to choose from. After dwelling into this particular topic, I will like to share the live examples of 3 of my startups. The first startup that I would like to talk about is Flareboard. Incidentally, one of the co-founders, Aryan Goyal, is an alumni of IIT Kanpur, 2019 batch. Last year, after graduating from IIT Kanpur in chemical engineering, he, along with his other co-founder, Divyanshu, has founded this company called as Flareboard. Flareboard is India's first online portal for end-to-end campus placement. Now they have entirely taken this campus placement process online. What you need to do is, the colleges, we had pre-COVID, we had about 70 colleges onboarded on our platform in last 1 year, and we had about 50 recruiters who were with their job. We were still evolving. With COVID, what happened was, it posed challenge. Suddenly colleges were shut down because students could not go, faculties could not go because of lockdown. There was nothing happening on the educational front. Many of the industries closed down, or they were not functioning. So there was no question of new recruitments happening. So naturally, the campus placement which happened in colleges did not even happen. So suddenly, if you see, Flareboard has been presented with a scenario where they did not have a single rupee coming in as a revenue. So what next? What did they do? The question was, what to do now to survive? We relooked at the strategy, and we decided that now that customers are not coming, let us use the resources to build our technology. We had a roadmap of building our platform over next 1 year, but pandemic has given us a very good opportunity to fast track this particular development. So entire focus we started giving on developing our platform. The outcome of this strategy was, now if you look at our platform, it has actually become end-to-end campus placement platform with colleges onboarded, the entire TPO or training and placement module onboarded on our platform. The students are a part of our platform. Then there is an assessment module which takes care of the assessment part or the aptitude part of the student to understand what skills he requires. Based on those skills, now we have skilling module, and we have onboarded some of the big names from the skilling industry on our platform. So now, after assessing the student, we can skill the student. He can take any of the programs of our partner skilling providers. Now, recruiters are having a better finished good in terms of better skilled student to recruit. Now, we are taking the requirement from the recruiter, and then we are, based on those requirements or job descriptions, we are trying to match the best students to the best companies. So by pivoting and changing the strategy and looking at, one is looking at technology and going in for the entire end-to-end kind of a model, we could pivot, and now we are ready. In fact, last 1 month we are seeing back that there is an activity on the education front. More and more colleges are joining our platform. In fact, in last 1 month, 50 more educational institutions have been onboarded, and we have onboarded another 50 recruiters. Also, we have onboarded 3 big skilling partners and 2 assessment partners on our board. Also, we have onboarded 3 recruitment agencies to support our recruitment drive. So it has become a beautiful platform, I would say, and we are looking forward to normalcy returning, and slowly the jobs are coming back to the online platform, and the things that have started moving in the right direction. And that's the story of Clareboard. Now I would love to give another startup from my portfolio, which I started mentoring them in 2018 onwards. And incidentally, this particular startup has also been funded last year. They have been funded 25 lakhs at a valuation of 4 crores. God is nothing but Guruji on Demand. Guruji on Demand is the first online aggregator. It is a Pune-based company. It's an aggregator for performing the rituals. The business model that we have had pre-COVID is, it's a Pune-based startup, and we started with the area of Pune, Pimpri Chinchwad. We have about 600 plus Gurujis onboarded on our platform. We perform 152 pujas. In fact, before starting to mentor Guruji on Demand, I didn't know that there are 152 pujas that we can perform. In fact, I was aware of not more than maybe 10 pujas that we perform normally. The regular ones like Satyanarayan or Vastu Shanti Puja, or when somebody is born, there are pujas, and of course on death there are pujas. So apart from those pujas, I was not knowing that there are so many pujas, but there are 152 pujas out there, and there are about 7 to 8 categories under which they are segregated. Another beauty of it is, as a yajman or the customer, you need to just book your day of puja and the muhurta, and everything else is taken care by the platform. The nearest Guruji is allocated to you on that particular day. He comes to your home with the entire samagri. So we have taken care of the samagri also, because many a time when we perform puja, we don't know what to bring. We always worry about whether something would be missing. You know, some kind of puja material or some flowers or something like that. So, but then the portal itself takes care of that entire samagri. So the Guruji comes along with this samagri. So for reaching out to the people with samagri, we have set up retail showrooms, retail platform for distributing these samagri. What happened to the business when COVID happened? Naturally, puja is not an essential, it doesn't come under essential service. So naturally, the business came to standstill. We were in fact we have launched our services in 2019 on Gudi Padwa Day, another auspicious day for us Maharashtrians, right? So we were doing well in Pune, Pimpri Chinchwad, and we were deciding that this year we will be launching our services in Mumbai and Mumbai metropolitan region. But here comes COVID, and the existing business is also not coming because pujas are not happening. So what to do? We started going back to the drawing board and decided on our new strategy. What we did was, the existing retail channel that we had, we decided to use it to distribute the essential goods like groceries, vegetables, fruits to the home. So we started delivering these new product line of ours using the existing retail network. Some of the services were as a corporate social responsibility. Some of them were probably monetized, but that was not, of course, the right avenue for us, because we were the aggregator for rituals. But then we have to survive and we have to keep ourselves relevant. What has happened was, because we were now catering to the people with groceries, many people onboarded our platform. So our database has increased manifold. Otherwise, the people only wanting to do or perform pujas were coming and registering on our platform. But because of this new service that we have started, many people from Pune, Pimpri Chinchwad logged on to our platform. Our database simply swelled manifold, and now naturally they know that there is somebody called Guruji on demand. And now going ahead, whenever the pujas need to be performed, these same people will be able to book the pujas on the particular muhurta and perform the puja. So we have indirectly reached out to many more people, which otherwise would have taken maybe a few more months to reach out to. So that has certainly helped us in. And now going ahead, we had now gone online with 2 of the pujas. If you look at out of 152 pujas, there are few pujas which are related to birth, because during COVID, if you will find, there will always be births and there will be deaths. So the pujas related to birth and death will always be performed. So now we moved on to something called as Zoom Puja. So based on the Zoom platform, we started using Zoom, where Guruji sitting at his home started, delivering the mantras or pujas, and the person sitting at home who wants to perform a particular puja started performing the puja sitting at home. So we took care of that particular thing, and also we came out with a separate portal now for end-to-end funeral management. So now there is a separate portal. If somebody is dead, we take care of the entire funeral end-to-end. So the person who is in pain, for them, he need not bother about arranging all the funeral material. He need not bother to arrange for the Guruji to perform the puja over there, and everything is taken care. So we have pivoted, and God has benefited. Now I will share with you another third case study. A company called, one of my startups called Truly Healthy. In fact, this is an amazing story, I would say. In fact, I am his mentor for his business, which is into solar panel, solar energy, and he has another, vertical which is dealing into two-wheeler electric vehicles. So he has two businesses for which I was mentoring him. He also has his third business, which is into garment manufacturing. If you look at the garment manufacturing business, he used to supply to, some of the, he is into denims, and he used to manufacture for some few of the leading denim brands, the jeans for the denim brands as OEM kind of a thing. But what happened during COVID? During COVID, as of course garment manufacturing doesn't fall into essential goods, he has to close down the facilities that he has. In fact, he is associated with 3 facilities. One is in Noida, one is in Barnala, and one is in Ludhiana. So the 3 happening garment manufacturing factories had to be just shut down. Now what to do? Nothing can be done, right? So 90% of garment manufacturing companies did nothing after that. The 10% of the companies, including my startup founder, Ajay Pratap Singh, he decided to pivot. He decided that he can't just simply shut down his business and sit home. So what he did, this new startup happened by accident, I would say. Truly Healthy came into market as a manufacturer of PPE kits. We assessed our manufacturing facilities at garment factories. We have realized that we need to purchase few extra machines to stitch PPE kits, because stitching garments or denim is easier than stitching PPE kits, because the compliance that is required to manufacture PPE kits is stringent. So when you talk about PPE kits manufacturing, we had to really, with an imported machinery which was costing 3 lakh, 4 lakh from Korea, South Korea. We imported immediately 2 such machines, and then we trained our labor to stitch PPE kits. At this juncture, I would like to go on record that government agencies have gone out of their way to help us. They gave us necessary permissions to, they registered our new startup on urgent basis. They gave us necessary permissions to run the new setup. The inspectors came to our factories overnight. They sat with us and gave us go ahead. Then when you have to be in the health sector, the product just cannot be manufactured and sold. It has to be then has to go through compliance. It has to go through the testing facility. So there is a requirement called CITRA certification. There is FDA certification. There is ISO quality certification required. Unless that those certifications are got, no hospital or no clinic is going to buy your product, because you are dealing with somebody's life. So now what to do? So these testing facilities are still working overnight, 24 by 7, 365 days kind of. They are working and helping startups like us to come out with new solutions for COVID and come out in the market with a solution to protect these health workers. So And if you look at, we started executing this particular thing. We got CITRA certification, we got ISO quality certification, we got FDA certification in not more than 1 month's time. If you look at the normal situation, the same certification would have taken probably 3 to 4 months to arrive at our office. But then looking at the urgency, everybody has put in their efforts and fast track this particular thing so that we were ready to manufacture and supply PPE kits in the month of May. And since May till today, I'm very happy to say that we are one of the major manufacturing facilities in India for PPE kits. We are selling to governments, we are selling to also private hospitals, and now we are also working on the export funnel because recently government has opened up the export market as well. Looking at the PPE, it is, I would love to say that it is a very good success story even for India. If you look at the when Corona happened in the month of March and first Corona patient was identified in Mumbai, every PPE kit was imported. There was not a single facility in India to manufacture PPE kits. And now, if you look at the same scenario, we have become self-sustainable, Atmanirbhar, in the words of our Prime Minister Modi ji. We are today the second largest manufacturer of PPE kits in the world after China. And if you look at the market sentiments outside in the globe, China is not preferred as a vendor anymore. So who is going to benefit is India. India, with a capacity of almost 3 lakh kits per day, has become the second largest manufacturer in the world for PPE kits. So that's a very, very great success story from India that COVID has given us. Now I would like to, like all the participants, to leave with some food for thought, and then I will take the questions from the participants. What Warren Buffett has said, and the 3 things that I'm going to share are very relevant when you want to go ahead and build your enterprise or build your startup around your novel idea. What Warren Buffett says is, price is what you pay, but value is what you get. What I said about the patents, what I said about unique value proposition or unique selling proposition, this particular quote from Warren Buffett seconds that particular thing that I have mentioned. Because price is an absolute thing that you pay. It is in rupee. For PPE kits, maybe today the PPE kit is available somewhere from 250 rupees to 400 rupees. But then the value that the 400 rupee PPE kit gives is better than the value that the PPE kit of 250 rupees gives to the health worker. Because the health worker who wears the PPE kit, which is of a highest quality or export quality, he need not worry about getting infected by corona. But then if he wears something that is available for as low as 250, 200 rupees, and it is available in the market, PPE kits are available for 200, 250 rupees, that is the absolute price that you pay. But then the value that you get for paying 400 rupees or premium of 150 rupees over 250 is the guarantee that you won't be infected from corona when you wear that particular PPE kit. The second thing that Warren Buffett has said, again relevant, is it takes 20 long years to build a reputation, but it takes only 5 minutes to ruin it. So think about it, and you should do the things differently. So again, the startup has to do things differently, keeping in mind the highest level of integrity. He should look at not exiting the market, but to create a legacy company going ahead, like Tata's or Wipro's of the world. And the third and the last thing that I would like to share that Warren Buffett has said is, it is far better to buy a wonderful company at a fair price rather than buying a fair company at a wonderful price. So, thank you very much. Uday? Uday? Uday?
Hello? Yeah.
Yeah, Uday. Questions?
So currently there are no questions. So any participants who wish to ask anything can put that on the chat box. We take the questions.
Any questions, please?
So there are no questions coming up right now. We'll wait for a few minutes and then we'll see it. Wait. So Khushbu has asked how to decide the share of each co-founder when there is no monetary investment.
Yeah, Khushbu. Yeah, it depends on how you found a particular company. So depends on the workload that each one of you is going to have. Who is going to be the person? If you are going to share the workload equally, probably you will have 50-50 kind of a sharing. So whenever you have this private limited company, you have to have your shares structure, registered with Company Act, under Company Act with the registrar. And under that, you decide it based on your understanding with your co-founder. Many a times it can be like one person can come up with the money, the second person can be the front end who does every activity. So the 50% share is taken by probably the person who brings in the money. 50% of the share is taken by the other co-founder who does the entire operations or running of the business. The relationship can differ, depending on what role each co-founder is going to play. Most of my startups have 2 or 3 co-founders, and many a times it is equally divided amongst the founders, unless one of the founders is a dominating player and is going to, put in more efforts to it than the other co-founders. Many times, if somebody, for example, has a patent and he has other co-founders, then if he can take more, share of the business. Many times, one of my startup has husband and wife, and the wife is having 95% of the share, and 5% was with the husband. So it can vary. There is no fixed formula for it. How much to pivot so that the originality is compromised? Samip, your question is relevant. So if you look at 3 examples that I gave, in the first example, that is Playerboard, we did not deviate from our original plan. What we did was just we enhanced our technology, and in fact we are now ready with entire Intuit platform, which otherwise we would have been busy with onboarding colleges and recruiters. Instead, we did technology part early. So our platform would have been ready 1 year from now, but now because of pandemic, we worked on that and we are ready with the product. So we have fast-tracked our product, and now we are full-fledged into the market with the entire product or the solution or the platform that we have. The second example that I gave was of God, where again it was a temporary thing that we went on to serve the went on to serve the people who wanted grocery and all using our retail channel. But then we benefited in terms of added database that came in and registered as our customers, and now they become our potential customers for our original idea, that is performing pujas. And then of course we pivoted to pujas related to funerals and pujas related to births online. So there also we did not deviate too much. In the third place, if you look at it, was a complete shift from garment manufacturing. We were in different industry altogether, and we now happen to be in a different industry, that is health tech, with PPE kits manufacturing. And to tell you frankly, now we are working on 2 more patents in health tech under Truly Healthy. So now we entered the health tech as a accident, but then going ahead, we are not going to exit once garment factories are going to come. Now what we are thinking about is we are trying to add products. We are also tied up with companies like LG and few of the other companies from Korea. So we are doing a lot of good things.
So,
Samir, did you get your answer?
yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Samir.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Even if people have questions afterwards, they can send it to Uday or his team, and I can also take the questions offline going ahead. Of course, now is the opportunity for you to directly ask the question. So please ask questions or the queries that you have regarding the pivoting or any of the topics that I have touched upon.
So Sameep is also asking another question. Is there a thing called flexible business model? Like not different models altogether rather than one flexible.
No, I did not get the question because this is a new flexible business model in the sense what? There is something called as lean business model. Lean is very lean. You don't really, you have resources which are really required. You don't just, put in resources without any requirement. That is the lean model, but flexible business model in the sense what? If I need to say something, see the strategy normally is the thing which is long term, and then you work on the tactics. So tactical moves are something which is deals with the flexible aspect of the business model. So when you are looking at a strategy has to be a long term particular to be done in long term perspective. But the flexibility comes with the tactical moves that you come out with. Because pandemic, if you look at, then pandemic is something which nobody has expected, right? So a lot of things needed to be changed. But then many of the businesses they had to take knee-jerk actions to keep afloat. So many of the businesses have simply changed their business model because they otherwise would have been irrelevant. Many of the businesses which did not have online business model now shifted to online because that's the only media that the business is being done now, except for manufacturing, of course. Manufacturing cannot be done online, but other things are online now. So flexibility, you as an entrepreneur, you need to be flexible. That is what I can say. But there is nothing called as flexible business model as a jargon.
So I don't think there are any more questions left. So should we wait for a couple of minutes, or shall we end it?
We can wait for a couple of minutes. If people have questions, they can ask.
तुम्हें कितनी
So I think
I think we can take the questions if at all offline also. So
yeah, sure. So shall we end it? It's already 10 minutes over the session. If it's okay with you, or like we'll take the questions offline if any come, if there are any. Otherwise, we can end the session right now if you want.
So thank you very much for.
Thank you, sir. It was great having you.
And thank you very much, Uday, for giving me opportunity. Thank you, Avdi. Thank you, Tanu. So looking forward to more engagements with IIT Kanpur. Thank you. So
Thank you.
signing off. Thank you. Bye.